Hello and welcome to Salem 1691. Some of the context you're going to need to know for the witch trials. This is some of the information you'll need to know about the Puritans and about the situation they were in that will give you information you might need to know about what caused some of the witch trials. So first thing that we'll go over here is the Massachusetts Bay Colony. So this colony was settled by the Puritans in 1628. You can see here, this is where Boston is. This is also where the city of Salem, where the witch trials took place. At least most of the witch trials took place. And if you know about the Pilgrims in Plymouth Rock and Plymouth, they're down here in the Plymouth colony, which later became part of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. But that is where the Pilgrims came, and they're just south of 1620. But this is where the Puritans came in 1628. And unlike the Pilgrims, the Puritans were a branch of Christianity that was persecuted in Europe, much like the Pilgrims. But the Puritans were not very welcoming of people who believed differently than them. So they left. They didn't feel like they couldn't practice their religion. They just left so they could be away from other people and have their own place to worship and not worry about other people who believe differently than them. And because it was only Puritans who lived in this place, they set up a theocracy, or a government that was controlled by the church. And so that led to issues. If someone tried to leave the church or question the church, they were banished from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. One of the famous people was Roger Williams, who was banished from the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and he formed the colony of Rhode Island. So Rhode Island and Connecticut were formed by people who were banished from the Massachusetts Bay Colony by the Puritans. They weren't very welcoming of other people, and that included the Native Americans. They thought of them as savages and lower than them, and they didn't like them. And in 1675, there was a war that broke out. It's called King Philip's War, and King Philip was the title they gave this Native American chief. And tensions had risen between people in New England, or the northern colonies, and thousands of natives and Europeans were killed in this war. It is in history, it is known as the highest death rate per capita, which means a lot of people died in comparison to the population. And this led to further distrust of the savages in the woods. It was the unknown area where the savages lived. Also, 10 years later, a new government was appointed in the Massachusetts Bay Colony that took down the theocracy. There's no more church-led government, and the king appointed a new person to come and try and make one colony of New. There's a bunch of different colonies like New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and the king's like, go make them one colony, one big colony, and call it New England. And that's where that name comes from. But this disrupted the Puritan way of life and destroyed their government, and it brought more outsiders into the colony, which is why they wanted to leave. They wanted to be away from outsiders, but outsiders came and did things different than them to upset the Puritans. One of those things, like in this picture, they're celebrating Christmas. This was in 1685, the first public celebration of Christmas was held, and the Puritans did not like that. They were very upset by that. This guy, you can tell right there, he's very upset by this. So there's just a lot of tension growing between these different Europeans that had to deal with each other. And so Puritans now had to live and work near people of other religions. And they didn't want that. Another thing the Puritans believed was the devil lived in the woods. He was a physical person that lived in the woods among the natives, and that's why they were savages, as they were corrupted by the devil. And they believed that the devil was coming into their towns and recruiting people to be his servants and follow their desires and come be my servant. And they believed that those people who came, who said, yes, I will sign this contract with you, devil, I will be your servant, they became servants of the devil, or witches. Not like the classic witch with a classic laugh, throwing different things into pots and saying, ooh. They were to the Puritans, they are servants of the devil. And according to Puritan scripture, witches were to be punished by death or execution. So that is some of the context you need to know in regards to the Salem witch trials. up to 1691 when they started to happen. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you are ready to learn more about the Salem witch trials.